Ahead of the one-year anniversary of the Ukraine war, CNA correspondent Jeremy Coe has been speaking to residents in the capital. Let's cross to him now, live in Kyiv. Jeremy, we've heard from President Vladimir Putin at his State of the Nation address. Earlier, he defended Russia's military operation in Ukraine. How have people that you've spoken to reacted to that?
Well, there's been no immediate reaction from President Vladimir Zelensky yet, at least on Twitter, but one of his senior aides said that Mr. Putin has showed his irrelevance and confusion in today's speech. As for ordinary Ukrainians, well, those I spoke with say that they had either no interest in what Mr. Putin had to say, or they were simply not monitoring his speech very closely, because for them, they believe that Mr. Putin will not say anything new today that they haven't heard before. Indeed, in his 2-hour speech, Mr. Putin blamed Ukraine and the West for starting the war. Now, so that's why Ukrainians I spoke with say that nothing that Mr. Putin can say will change their minds. Now, remember, the world is marking the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But for many Ukrainians, the war started 9 years ago when Russia invaded and subsequently annexed the Crimean Peninsula in southern Ukraine. So there are strong feelings here towards Putin and also ordinary Russians whom they say are complicit in Mr. Putin's actions. And if you can just look behind me, these are captured Russian tanks here in the heart of Kyiv, in one of the most iconic squares here in Kyiv. So certainly very, very strong emotions here towards Mr. Putin as well as ordinary Russians here. So instead of focusing on what Mr. Putin has to say, they say it's more important to hear from what US President Joe Biden has to say later today in Poland, as well as other Western leaders. So what they're looking out for: strong expressions of support for Ukraine, weapons, ammunition, fighter jets, and all that. Now, as you know, Mr. Biden was here in Kyiv yesterday, in this very spot where I'm standing right now. He did a tour of this area. So Mr. Zelensky said Mr. Biden's visit was very historic, timely, and brave. Descriptions which no doubt most Ukrainians would agree with.
Jeremy, Mr. Putin's speech earlier notwithstanding, the war indeed rages on around you. There are signs of an upcoming Russian offensive nearly a year into that invasion. Are there signs, though, of apprehension among residents?
Well, Dawn, a year is a long time here in Ukraine. As you can see around me, I'm just going to turn the camera around. You can see around me, the streets are pretty bustling here in central Kyiv. Maybe not as bustling as before the war, but certainly you can still see lots of cars on the roads. Pedestrians are still walking around. Maybe today is not exactly a very true reflection because, there's very tight security here. We're expecting the arrival of a VVIP from the Western world to visit this site today. But certainly, Ukrainians I spoke with say that they are very defiant. They want to win. They are convinced that Ukraine will win this war against Russia. But this is Kyiv. Just 7 hours drive away from here towards in the western city of Lviv, near the Polish border. That city, Lviv, is certainly more relaxed, and you see a lot more people on the streets. It's more bustling. There's a lot more activity at night as well. People there also say that they're convinced that Ukraine will win, and as for any nuclear threat that Mr. Putin is issuing, they dismiss it as simply a game of playing bluff by Mr. Putin.
Jeremy, thank you for that. CNA's Jeremy Coe there reporting live for us from Kyiv.